Alright, hello everybody. Today we're going to be going over how I did Ursoc this week. So on Ursoc this week we didn't have our Boomkin or Resto Druid in the raid, so I didn't have access to any innervates during this entire fight. So I'm just going to be going over kind of how I adapted to that and just kind of changed up my playstyle from the burst AoE healing you can do when you have the innervates, when you have access to more of the more mana. So you have to be aware of, how many innervates you can use in your raid, because it does dramatically change what you can do during the fight. If you are trying to play the the powered radiance kind of playstyle, you do really need those innervates there. So anyway, we'll get straight into the gameplay. So the first thing you can see there, I did have a very late rapture. I should have used my rapture much earlier, and made sure I was rapturing the melee group there. So I was doing that in my previous attempts. I have no idea why I didn't do it there, but nevertheless, everyone survived. We do have a set healing cooldowns going out for each single one, so it is we're never really in any harm for these first few charges, and we're pretty good. So the second one there, you can see we have one radiance going out. There's not really too much need to be overhealing at this point. I do have four. Like the whole point of this fight is to get it to 30%, to have enough mana to be able to heal through all the cacophonies at the end of the fight. So you don't want to be trying to padding out your healing at the start of the fight. You don't want to be by the end of the by 30% where you can't heal where you need to. So it's important not to pad when you're doing this fight, and just there's very static points in the fight where damage is going to go out. So you can see there we have 10 atonements out, and they're all in the melee group. So we had a few radiances going out there preemptively, and that was just to heal up the melee group, which would be taking more damage from the gaze than the range group would. And we're just pretty much using our Halo whenever it's going to be, optimal. The heal from Halo does split, I think, above 10 players. So it doesn't heal for that much, but it is a fairly decent heal. So I'm just using that, between cacophonies just to top people up. And I believe for this gaze right now, I don't think we have any healing cooldowns going out. I think we have wings, but our rapture's just coming up. So right now we're just trying to save as many cooldowns. Everything's basically now going to be aligned, so they're coming up during the 30% phase, all our healing cooldowns. So I believe I have rapture for the next one, and I do think I'm going to take a drink in a second. So we do have all our healers kind of calling out, I'm going to drink after this next gaze, I'm going to drink here, blah 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 blah, making sure that everyone's not drinking at the same time. So we are rapturing this gaze that's coming out, making sure all the melee have atonement on them. And I do get the gaze, which is not optimal. We do have a lot of atonements going out, so it's important now that as soon as the gaze ends that I am doing a lot of healing. So the problem I had there was that I actually raptured far too early, so my atonements fell off while the gaze was coming up. So that wasn't ideal, and right now I do decide to take a drink, and then the miasma comes on top. I ran out of the first one and then didn't predict the second one, but I did get I was watching the cacophony timer and didn't make sure I didn't get feared, and I just sat in the miasma for a bit. Now is where the fight really begins. So during this last phase of the fight here, this is where the cacophony stack up, people start dying if they're not in ranged, and everything kind of hits the wall. So we have our two shadow priests use their vampiric embrace here. And this is just before all our cooldowns come up. So the Shadow Priests are doing huge damage right now because they're both in Surrender to Madness. So their cooldowns actually do a fair bit. So we're going to, I believe, Barrier, just to reduce some of the cacophony damage. Have everyone stack up in the cacophony. And we're pretty strapped on mana at this point, but that's all good. So we have Link and Revival. We're making sure we're using our cooldowns now before the gaze, so everyone's topped, and we're not using our cooldowns to heal the gazes, because after the gaze happens, there isn't damage for a very long period of time. So again, there's not... And then we're just, at this point, I believe I should just be, stop healing and then damage the boss, because healing people will just, they're going to die regardless. So there you go. you know, I didn't have the most impressive logs for that fight. I wasn't, you know, wearing the cocoon trinket or anything like that. So, you know, we could be playing a completely different style if we wanted to. But we do have, with the shaman and with the monk, we do have quite a bit of burst healing, quite a bit of throughput healing. So you really, in the raid, if you don't have the innervates to be doing the huge amount of burst healing, you know, it's fine just to be in there to be going, yeah, I can do, you know, 350k HPS just, you know, doing, you know, using what I have and just trying to be a throughput healer rather than just specifically trying to counter mechanics like the gaze, because there is a lot more happening in this fight than just the gazes. Another thing just to consider as well is the amount of damage you are bringing to the raid as playing disc. So when you don't have the innervates, you're not a useless healer. You're not as strong as you potentially could be with them. You're not ever gonna be, you know, the topping against, you know, shamans or druids or any of that if you don't have those innervates. So don't hold yourself. You know, you don't want to be comparing your healing to other healers at that point, because you are going to be bringing something that they don't, and that is going to be a lot of damage. So in this fight, I believe I did about 150k DPS. So that's 150k DPS, you know, we probably wouldn't have had if we had a different type of healer. So especially for a fight like Ursoc, having a Disc Priest in your raid can be a fantastic addition. If you're trying to beat an Enrage, you're trying to beat, you know, a certain encounter on soft enrage or something on the fight. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something about how you can play disc if you don't have innervates. That's why I wanted to do this video, is just to kind of highlight the differences between, you know, what you know, how you do play with those innervates and how you don't. So you know, what my gameplay was, you know, far from perfect, but again, we did decently on the healing, we did very well on the damage, and we did kill the boss. So end of the day, we did alright. Alright, well, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.